welcome to Double the Cup, where we've just finished the first set of quarterfinals between Spain and the Dutch. And the Spanish have gone through with a little bit of late drama. And today I'm lucky enough to be joined by newly announced Melbourne City player Rebekah Stott. Stotty, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Thank you for having me on the show.
We appreciate you spending some time with us. And as always, we're lucky enough to be joined by A-League's commentator, Pellizzeri. Teo, how are you?
Incredible. What a great start to the quarterfinals, and what a fantastic guest to have on as well. New Zealand international Rebekah Stott, star of football, full stop. Stotty, give us your first impressions on Spain finding a way to beat the Dutch 2-1 after extra time.
Yeah, it was a really good game. I enjoyed watching it. I think Holland were very structured, and with their three at the back, it's cool to see that formation. I think they were hard to break down, but Spain eventually got through, and it was a really good game. Van der Graat, wow. It's just like drama follows her, eh?
Well, giving away the penalty for the handball and then scoring the equalising goal to take it into extra time. I'll ask this question to you both. Pokuah, maybe you can lead us off. Did Spain win in spite of how difficult they made it for themselves in this game?
You know, Terry, I was just about to ask Stotty the same question, and the answer, I think, is yes. They made it really difficult for themselves, so unnecessarily as well. There were so many opportunities, particularly in the first half, where they'd get nearer to the box or they'd be there and they'd just be searching too much for the perfect goal, that they had opportunities. They could have just taken the shot a little bit earlier. And I think this game could have been well and truly over around about the 60th minute, but they certainly like to extend it, the Spanish. But I think ultimately for them, all that matters is they're through to the next round.
I think, yeah, definitely. I agree. I think Spain, couldn't find the end product. They got in good areas, but it just wasn't happening until they did break through. I think also, like, after the Dutch got back into it, it really opened up. So it was really anyone's game. Lucky enough. I think it was literally 20 seconds before Spain scored that winning goal. Netherlands could have taken it. So they're fine margins, these games.
Now, one of your Melbourne City teammates who you're going to be linking up with, Briley Henry, said to us on this pod, Stotty, that Salma Paralolo, who scored the winning goal for Spain, was incredible to play against at the Under-20 World Cup and had vaulted herself into this Spanish national team to potentially be one of the best players in the world already. 19 years old, and she's just gone and done that in a World Cup quarterfinal. What do you make of this player, and how far can she go?
Yeah, I mean, she's insane. I think she just won the Champions League with Barcelona as well, and she was very impressive in that. I think she's got incredible talent. Obviously very athletic, chose football over athletics. So she's definitely one for the future and for the now. So she's very impressive.
How much does Jorge Vilda, the Spanish coach, owe Salma for getting him out of jail? Because he already had the best player in the world on the pitch, Aitana, and he subbed her off. What was he thinking? It was only 1-0. And then when they held up the board for 12 minutes of additional time at the end of the 90, he must have been suspecting that if the Dutch equalised, he had just basically burnt whatever last shred of credibility he was hanging on with.
I'll tell you, that man is, he's probably buying her everything she needs. Honestly, she gets a certified starting spot for the rest of this tournament, because as I was watching the game, you know, I was like, how is Alexia Putellas still not on the pitch as well? You know, she's a fantastic player as well. And he just wasn't, you know, it took I think it's the 99th minute before he brought her on. I think he made it way too difficult for himself. He's got some of the best players available to him, and some of his selection choices for even taking Bon Marti off when he did, I was a little bit surprised by that as well. So I think he's very lucky. And I think he got found out in the game against Japan, and he was almost found out in this game as well.
Stotty, take us inside the player's mindset, because we've just seen, I've still got the stream up, the players celebrating together out on the ground. They're in a semi-final. They're delighted. We're nitpicking a lot of the things that went wrong. Are these the sort of things that players are able to mentally reset and get over quickly? Or do you think that this still could burn away at the Spanish? It's amazing to think they're in the Final Four of the World Cup, and we have found so many problems with the way they approached this game.
I mean, I think they're going to enjoy the moment for the next 1 or 2 hours. And then, I mean, I think these best players in the world, they know how to critique themselves and learn from that. So I'm sure that tomorrow they'll be looking at the game, seeing what they can fix, I'm sure as a team as well, and they'll look to fix those issues before the next game.
How would you fix it? I assume that Aitana will start the next game. We didn't see Alexia until extra time, and now Salma has done this amazing thing off the bench. Do you think Spain go with the same starting 11? Because Vilda has been pretty happy to mix it up. He brought in Alba Redondo. We've seen him take Esther off, even though Esther's probably his preferred starting striker. Do you have any players that have caught your eye that you think absolutely must start, regardless of whether it's Sweden or Japan in the semi-final?
To be honest, I know Ivana at the back might be a bit injured, but I think she is quality, and I think if they can have her starting, that will make a huge difference. I mean, he's got so much of a selection. You've got Alexis on the bench. I would have to go with Bonmati. She's got to be starting. I think she's world class right now. She's probably one of the best players in the world. But yeah, I don't know. He's got such a hard selection job because there are so many talented players in that team.
As a defender, what did you make of Paredes's challenge that was a penalty and a yellow and then overturned?
Oh, I'm so glad that was the decision. I don't think that was a penalty at all. Like, you're allowed to go in, give a bit of a shove. So I think, yes, I'm very happy that the decision was overruled.
Are you in agreement, Pokuah?
When I first saw it, and when it was going live, I definitely thought it was a pen because it looked like it looked like a more physical contest than it was. But on the replay, it did look a little softer. But the thing was less so about the penalty. I just didn't know how they were going to be able to overturn it because there was contact when she looked on VAR. So I don't know if it's a clear and obvious. That was the only thing that I was left wondering.
Stotty, how many games have you played in with the VAR? Because I think regardless of how I feel about that decision, my big criticism has been they've used VAR to re-referee incidents rather than overturn the clear and obvious. How have you felt about the application of VAR in this tournament?
Yeah, I've played only in 6, so last World Cup and this World Cup. To be honest, I quite like VAR. I think there are special moments where it could be a bit much, but I mean, I think it is a better result for the game. It's fairer. I know in 2015 Canada we didn't have VAR and we got stitched up because of it. So I'm thankful that there is VAR, and I think it is helping the game, especially when the referees like announce it. It's kind of cool.
Well, I think Stephanie Frappart is also a very good referee. So interesting to get your perspective, though, and also to know that, I mean, even as an international player, you've only played in the 6 games with VAR. Spain had 62% possession in this game. You have played in Melbourne City teams and in club teams that have been the ball-dominant team that are looking for a way to break down an opponent. But you've also got plenty of experience being the team that defends against the side that's got 60, 70+% possession. When you're watching a game like this, where are your eyes drawn, and how do you assess the Spanish style? But also, say, if they played Japan in the semi-final, Japan only needed 30% possession to score 4 goals against them.
Yeah, my eyes when I'm watching that goes to how the opposition defends against it, and I think Holland did a very good job of that. Like, obviously Spain is a very technical, they love to play tiki-taka football, and they do enjoy having possession. But at the end of the day, you do need to score goals. So I think they need to focus on that end product and making sure that they are creating chances and like serious goal scoring opportunities. But yeah, I mean, I think Japan, if they get Japan again, I think they could trouble them. But obviously it will be a totally different game.
So from the Dutch perspective, is there anything else they could have done in this game to get more control or to get them better opportunities? Because they were obviously limited with the amount of goal scoring opportunities they really had until the latter part of the game.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think, to be honest, I think they were set up very well. I mean, they have such a talented squad. They've got 5 midfielders that would be starting in most national teams. And the way he has fit in Spitzer to be playing, so he's pretty much got, I think, 4 midfielders on the field, I think is pretty smart. what could have you done more? I don't know. I think it's so hard to be like, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. I think they could have been a bit more clinical, especially when the game opened up. I think they could have had 2 goals in extra time, really. So probably just a bit more clinical.
And for you now, obviously, you've just stepped out of the World Cup with a really great and great moments for the New Zealand national team, and it was so much fun to watch you guys. How has it felt after leaving the World Cup and you got to look back on the journey that was?
Yeah, it is always a bit of a blur when you come out of it, and it's like, oh crap, life's different now. I have to cook myself food. So it's very weird. But it's cool. I've been to a few games here in Melbourne, and the atmosphere is pretty incredible. I think to look back at what we achieved at the World Cup is pretty special, and it's starting to sink in. I don't think we could have understood the magnitude of it when we were in it. And that first Norway game to me is a blur. Like, I can't even really remember much about it. So I think over the next month it will sink in more, and we'll be able to reflect more and see how much of a I don't know, legacy we've made in New Zealand specifically.
I wanted to ask you what was different, because you've been going to international tournaments since the 2012 Olympics. So you've been to Olympics, you've been to multiple World Cups. What was different about getting to host it?
I mean, the support behind you is incredible. Obviously, we haven't played a lot of games in New Zealand as a national team. So to be in front of our home crowd and actually show the nation that women's football is a big deal, because I don't think people understand how big it is. It was so cool. And then to see everyone come out to that opening game and just get behind us, it was insane. I think the ticket sales in New Zealand actually went skyrocketed after that game. So it's so cool to see that the locals are getting behind it.
When we talk about the World Cup legacy, we've unashamedly been Australian centric. So
Yeah.
what is it that you would like to see in New Zealand? You mentioned there that you don't get to play in your own country much. I'm sure that's one of the things that would be at the top of the list. More home friendlies, even more home, mini tournaments like the Cup of Nations that Australia's held a couple of times. But what else would you love to see reflected in the game as a result of hosting this World Cup?
Yeah, 100% games at home, so that we can keep the ball rolling there, keep fans engaged, and keep young girls and boys like inspired. I think we need to inspire the next generation to come through, play football, and we hope that can, in like a long time's time, help us and make us a better footballing country.
You're only 30, and we, for those of you that aren't familiar with you overcoming your battle with cancer and being a real pioneer of being able to beat it and come back and play sport at the elite level, which is incredible. You're closing in on 100 caps. We are getting closer to the 2024 Olympics. Are you just going to play for as long as you can, and as long as your form and your health will let you?
Yeah, 100%. I love football. I've played it since I was 4 years old. It's my passion. So I will keep playing for as long as I possibly can, obviously, depending on my body and my form. I think that's one thing I really need to focus on, especially going into this A-League women's season, is to, work on my body and make sure that I am in the best condition, and see how I am feeling. But no, I'm feeling good, and I can't wait to keep going.
New Zealand players, often the very top ones, men and women, have to make peace with the idea of leaving New Zealand to play professionally. Which of your teammates from New Zealand put themselves in the shop window in this tournament, and who maybe now is dreaming of a pro contract in a country that maybe previously wouldn't have been in their thinking before the World Cup happened?
Is this in my opinion?
Yeah, well, hey, this is your chance to talk up any of your teammates that you think need a little bit of a shine as well.
I think Jackie Hand was a superstar. She absolutely killed it. She really showed herself and put herself on the map, I think. And then for me, also Katie Bowen. I think she was one of our best players. So composed back there, so solid. It was so great to play with her. So I would say those two were the standouts for me.
What made them stand out? So, I mean, other than their performances, Hand was obviously very eye-catching and plays in a position that allows her to do so. But from your perspective as a teammate, what made them special?
I think for Jackie, I think she gave us that flair, creativity, and I think something that we haven't had for a long time. She's just such a natural footballer and a great player. So I think that for her. And Bowen, I think her leadership from the back was really helpful for us. She was organising on the ball. She was great. Defensively, she was great. I think she was class.
So, I don't know if it's as I'm not quite sure. Is Katie Bowen coming back to Melbourne City where you guys might be playing against? I'm not quite sure about that. But watching Katie, she's such an interesting player because she plays in the defence sometimes and plays in the midfield. I want to know, what do you think her best position is? Because she loves to drive forward so often. What do you think is like the role you're like, Katie Bowen shining right now?
I don't know. Obviously I've seen her play in midfield and she's great in there as well. She's quite new to playing centre back and I think she's doing very well there. So what's her best position? I'm not sure. I can't answer that, but I think she's done extremely well at centre back lately.
And so that the tournament with New Zealand, and obviously you said you can't remember too much about that Norway game, but what's the noise like in the stadium when that goal goes in and you realize, oh, we're actually going to beat a team that lots of people wouldn't have expected us to have had a chance at in this tournament?
Yeah, I think when we scored that goal, I was not thinking, oh, we're going to win. I was like, okay, we've got to stay strong now. But no, I think the first time we actually did an attack in the first half and the crowd started going crazy, I was like, whoa, like this is so loud. It was insane. And then when we did score, it went crazy. So it was pretty cool. And it was just so nice to feel the support behind her.
Now, you are a dual citizen, Australia and New Zealand. And I remember running into your mum at a game about 7 or 8 years ago. And I asked, how close was Rebekah to playing for Australia? Because he did play for the young Matildas. He did play for Australia at under 20 level. And she looked at me like I was trying to steal New Zealand's national secrets. So from your point of view, from an Australian, because you've spent so much time living and playing in this country, where do you see the Matildas at? What are your thoughts on them heading into, obviously, a World Cup quarterfinal, but also what it's done for the game on our side of the ditch here?
I mean, they've been incredible. I think just that one small hiccup against Nigeria, but that's probably helped them in the past few games. The team is so talented right now. I don't think I've ever seen a Matildas team so talented. I think it's like the golden era. I've obviously played with a lot of these players through under 17s and under 20s, and then also at Melbourne City. I mean, Tony has so much choices. And yeah, I think they can go far. They're so attacking and creative and things just happen. So they're good to watch and I think they can go far in this tournament. And in terms of what they've done for football in this country, I mean, just look at the crowds, look at the shirt sales. People are talking about them. People know who these players are. Like, it's so cool to see. And I think like this World Cup in both countries is going to change the game. I don't think it will ever go back to the way it was, I guess.
No pulling on even the slightest heartstring for green and gold. I still think you're the one that got away. I remember when New Zealand capped you, I said, this is our Josip Simeonic moment only for women's football, but you're a Kiwi. You're a Kiwi. That's the thing.
I'm a Kiwi through and through. It's in me. I'm a Kiwi.
It's all right, Sarah. It's okay. You know what? We can still enjoy watching Rebekah play for New Zealand because you know what? Australia-New Zealand connection, it's always strong there. And Studdy, you've obviously played with so many of these players in that Matildas squad, and you have a great relationship with Steph Catley, who's having a sensational tournament. 2 goals. I don't think anybody would have predicted Steph Catley to score 2 goals in this tournament. How nice has it been to see, someone you're so close with do so well at this tournament and excel, even though everybody knows she's a fantastic player?
Yeah, it's incredible. I'm so proud of her. She deserves everything. She's such an incredible person as well as player. So to be captaining the team in Sam's absence is is really cool. And I think, she's done an amazing job. She's playing great. She's scoring their goals. She's such a valuable part of their team, both on the field and off the field. And so, I'm so proud of her.
It's in terms of this Matilda squad, is there been anybody you've watched and you've gone, oh wow, you're making that next step into a different level of of a player, that you've seen so far?
Yeah, I think Kyra is outstanding. Her technical ability is just so cool to see. And I think she'll definitely get snapped up after this tournament. Her distribution is second to none. So I think she's been incredible. I also think Claire Hunt's been great at the back. Such a late addition coming into the team. Only earlier this year, was it? And she looks like she's been playing there for years. So I think those two have been standing out for me.
And in terms of when you see this Matilda squad and you see the likes of Claire Hunt and you're seeing, Kyra Cooney-Cross, and they've got might have decisions at the end of this tournament to make the move overseas or for in Kyra's case, to maybe move to a bigger club. How do you make that decision? How do you weigh it up to know this is the right move? This is not just a name. This is actually the club that's going to do the best for me in my career.
I think that's one of the hardest things in football, that period where you're deciding what should I do, because that's your life. And so I mean, it's obviously first getting those offers on the table and then deciding what's best. And I think you've just got to weigh up all the pros and cons and really just decide what's best for you personally.
Now you've made the decision. You're coming back to the A-League Women's, which I'm looking forward to seeing you. Every time you're here, you do such an amazing job. What was part of the reason of coming back to play in the dub?
Yeah, obviously, after I finished treatment here in Australia, my goal was always to get back to England, and we had a tough season the last year, and I think we went through 4 coaches, so it was a bit all over the show, and it kind of just showed me that I do want to be home, and I do want to, I think, focus on my football, but also start to think about coaching and different things. I can't do that in England, but I can do it here. So I think that's part of my decision to come back, and I just want to be home, and I'm so excited to be back.
When you were previously at Melbourne City, it was Rado in charge. Now it's Dario. What have you been told from the teammates you're linking back up with? But also, what have your conversations with him been like? Because Melbourne City, when they were on song, they were a joy to watch. We were talking 75, 80% possession and really able to own and dominate games. But when it didn't work, they looked shaky, and the presence of someone like yourself will be invaluable. But what was the sales pitch from Melbourne City about how they will play and the role you'll be playing in that team?
Yeah, I mean, it's the City style that I love to play. I've played here for 5, 6 seasons, and always loved it. Trainings are amazing, and just the style that we play, it's fun. I enjoy it. So he didn't have to really convince me too much. I knew I wanted to come back here, and he just talked about the squad and what the ambitions were, and I'm sold.
Now, the collective bargaining agreement and the details of that has been announced. I'm the sort of person that I never want to let perfect be the enemy of better, and there's no doubt that this is a better arrangement as we extend the season length. You were there right back at the beginning when it was a 10-game season. It was a super series. It was blink and you'll miss it. How do you feel about going into a 22-game A-League Women's season? So many more opponents, a full home and away for the first time, because you've seen the journey, you've seen the evolution. So how does it feel to stack that up against what it was like when you first started playing?
Yeah, it's so good. It just shows how far we have come. I think now, as the season does get longer, I think it's only a few games less than like the English league. Over a little bit less time, but it's so good for the league, and I think this can help attract players to come back to this league. American players from players from everywhere, they can be in this league because it is sustainable now. And yeah, I mean, it's almost a full-time job. So it's incredible to see how far it has come. Obviously, it does have some way to go still, to make it, I guess, an annual kind of thing. But I mean, I think I remember back at Brisbane Raw days, my first season, first kind of go at it, I was like on $100 a week or something. So we've come a long way, and it's cool to see.
I have no doubt, regardless of whether the Matildas go out in the quarters, the semis, or make the final or win the final, the calls will come for the A-League women's to be full-time professional. And I think that that's the goal for everyone. Amazing hearing you talk about what it was like back when you were a scholarship player. But what, from your experience overseas, you've played in top leagues, Germany, England, and so forth. What is that next step that's going to allow the league to go full-time professional and make it the full-time sole job? I mean, even just in the last 2 weeks with some of our Dub at the Cup guests, I've been asking them off air, what are you doing with your time? How are you splitting your training and your commitments? And some of them are still living that very W League era lifestyle of, I'm playing NPL to get a bit of pocket money. I'm juggling the jobs that'll let me train, and all my focus is on the A-League women's in the summer, but it's only going to occupy me for half the year. So there are still some people who are very much still living the W League lifestyle, hoping that that full-time professional era can come sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I mean, once it is at that, it's going to be incredible. But to get there, I don't know. I think it will take a few more years. The success of this World Cup will help. Hopefully sponsors will come on board, which allows us to get paid more. Hopefully fans come to the games, more fans. That will help as well. And I think, just exposure to the A-League women and the A-League men. I think that will just help and grow the game.
From a New Zealand perspective, obviously the dub recently, or 2 seasons ago, I think, or 3, correct me if I'm wrong, Tara, but the Phoenix came into the competition, and how much do you think that's helping in terms of the growth of football in New Zealand, that there's at least one team there, and with the CBA changing the rules of, I believe the New Zealand players are now going to be classified as just domestic players, so they won't limit the amount of, New Zealand players in that squad?
But just to clarify, 4 New Zealand teams.
Yep.
So Wellington, when Auckland comes in for expansion, same rules as the A-League men's. If you're a New Zealander, you are a local player if you play for one of the New Zealand teams, which means that they don't have to go and sign Australian players to fill their roster. They can sign whichever 5 foreigners they want now, which they've already done with the first announcement they made yesterday. But sorry to hijack your question there, Pokuah. Just in
No,
case
you definitely,
any
you clarified a little bit better.
But I'll let you ask it to
that's for
Stoddy
sure.
now. My apologies.
But obviously with these teams coming in, Stoddy, how much of that have you seen as a boost in in terms of football in New Zealand, about the youth and things like that, youth players coming into this national team?
Yeah, it's huge. You just look at some of the players that were at the FIFA World Cup for us. Mickey Foster had a breakout season in the Phoenix and got called up to play for the Ferns, and she's done amazing. She's such a solid player. So I think these opportunities that some of these New Zealand local players didn't have, they now have that opportunity. There's a pathway, there's academies. And so that's just going to help develop the game in New Zealand. Once there is an Auckland team, that's going to just double it. Obviously, having a base in Auckland and Wellington will be amazing. So yeah, it's done a huge amount of work, success for New Zealand, and we're hoping that off the back of this World Cup, that just continues to grow and grow, and the interest just continues.
That generation that are turning into, full New Zealand internationals now, though, Kate Taylor, Mackenzie Barry, Grace Wisniewski, we've seen Millie Clegg leave Phoenix to go to Western Sydney Wanderers, but she was in that World Cup squad. What are they saying about the impact that the A-League is having on them? Because I imagine that it's, again, something that you would have loved to have when you were coming through. But I guess, you're a Queenslander. You got to play for the Roar and then you went to the Victory. So you've still, sorry to come back to the, you are Australian thing again. But what have those players like Wisniewski and Barry and Taylor said about the effect that having the Wellington Phoenix program has had on their entry into top-level football?
Yeah, they spoke very highly of it. Obviously, that first season where they were having to live in Australia was very tough on them. But yeah, last season when they were based in Wellington, it was really good. I think their facilities have been incredible. So it's like given them a taste of what professional football is like. And I mean, you can just see like the experiences that they've had is just like taking them to the next level, in terms of their confidence, but also like their footballing ability. And yeah, they've loved it. And the fact that they are getting opportunities overseas in Australia, in different countries as well, from this is so cool to see. And it's just going to help.
Now, one last one on the A-League. You're coming back to Melbourne City, and a little bit like Salma Paralolo today for Spain, a 19-year-old winger that can run half the field and score a miraculous goal. Pokuah is smiling because at the start of Dub at the Cup, we made a handshake agreement that we were only allowed to talk about this player once per podcast.
We've been pretty good so far.
How much are you looking forward to being a teammate of Holly McNamara this summer?
Yeah, she's such an incredible young talent. So I can't wait to get started with her. And yeah, hopefully link up with her a few times and see her shine. I think part of the reason I came back to City as well was to kind of help guide some of the young ones. I really like to give my knowledge and kind of just, I guess, guide them. So I want to try and do that. And I think she's a player that has so much talent and can go so far. Unfortunately, she's not at this World Cup, but I think she'll have a very long career and it's exciting to play with her again.
Well, some of our Dub at the Cup guests, Naomi Chinema, Briley Henry, they'll be your teammates. And I tell you, you're walking into a dressing room that's going to be not just eager to learn from you, but really loves football and knows football. And I imagine that that's going to create a really great environment. Now, if you want to go and see Rebekah Stott in the Liberty A-League, don't forget to sign up for the Liberty A-League Pass. Free season access. If you're under 16, go to keepup.com.au/LAP. You can find out all the terms and conditions on that website as well. keepup.com.au/LAP. That's Liberty A-League Pass. 16 and under, sign up now and get into the games for free. Doesn't matter what city, but particularly if you're in Melbourne and you're in the southeastern suburbs, you have no excuse not to sign up and get that Liberty A-League Pass for the coming season this summer. Stotty, it's awesome to see you back in the A-League. You are one of the best players in the competition before the season gets underway. And gee, I was thinking the other day, who's my title favourite? Because Pokuah, we've seen a lot of transfer activity.
We have.
And we are going to have to do some serious thinking about what best 11s and squads look like before summer. Because, I mean, I saw Sydney FC dropped just a triple signing yesterday with 18 Keane coming in. Hey, we might have two Keanes unrelated at the top of the Golden Boot race next year, Pokuah. But, Stotty, it's been awesome to have you on. And thanks for talking about a whole range of football things on Dub at the Cup with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, you see, Taylor, I'm already starting to envision that Stotty deep pass to Holly Mack running down the wing, and I'm very excited about it. I can see the replays already. But Stotty, as Taylor said, we really appreciate you spending some time with us and chatting football.
No worries. Thank you so much.
And Taylor, once again, thanks for joining me on this. It was a lot of fun, this pod.
And it's not over for podcast subscribers, Pokuah. So for our web audience and our podcast listeners, let them know where they can catch up with the analysis of Japan versus Sweden.
And to find all the latest news about the Women's World Cup, you can find us on keepup.com.au and keep up on all our social media platforms. And to listen back to the pod, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and anywhere else you listen to.